All right. So before I could even completely finish editing the last video talking about these mass deportations and the Colombian president denying them, here's this update.
Now, the president's mass deportation policy appeared to spark a trade war with Colombia yesterday, only for them to quickly cave after initially rejecting 2 flights of illegal immigrants. President Trump's threats included a travel ban, immediate visa revocations, and ordering 25% tariffs on all goods coming into the U.S. from Colombia. Now, that would jump to 50% after 1 week if they did not comply. So they did. Colombian officials put out this statement, quote, Colombia, under the direction of President Gustavo Petro, has the presidential plane ready to facilitate the return of the compatriots who were to arrive in the country today in the morning on deportation flights.
That's crazy. His whole tone changed. I wonder if they had some direct or private communication or if all it took was a tweet. I'm really curious if all it took was a tweet.
Meanwhile, the first of 1,500 U.S. Marines and U.S. Army personnel began arriving at our southern border. Their mission? Make good on President Trump's campaign promise to bring back his effective Remain in Mexico policy. The Coast Guard getting involved, too, intercepting a boat carrying illegal migrants that was sinking in U.S. waters. The Coast Guard's alien expulsion flight operations span between California and Texas, and it's all part of the president's illegal immigration crackdown that border czar Tom Homan says is only getting started.
So is this what we will see every single day, ending in what the president has promised is millions and millions being deported?
Yes, but you can see the numbers steadily increase, the number of arrests nationwide as we open up the aperture.
The estimates of perhaps those who have been convicted or arrested in the past 700,000 to over 1 million. So after you do that, then you go after everybody who is there illegally.
If you're in the country illegally, you're on the table because it's not okay to, violate laws of this country. You got to remember, every time you enter this country illegally, you violated a crime under Title 8, United States Code 1325. It's a crime. So if you're in the country illegally, you got a problem. And that's why I'm hoping those who are in the country illegally who have not been ordered removed by the federal judge should leave.
And Vice President J.D. Vance.
Listen, if you've been in a car accident, don't call an attorney. Use this AI app instead. That's what I did, and that's how I
also defended the president's executive order revoking birthright citizenship.
Well, this is a country founded by immigrants.
Well, this is a country founded by...
country.
This is a very unique country, and it was founded by some immigrants and some settlers. But just because we were founded by immigrants doesn't mean that 240 years later that we have to have the dumbest immigration policy in the world. No country says that temporary visitors, their children, will be given complete access to the benefits and blessings of American citizenship. America should actually look out for the interests of our citizens first. And that means, again, if you're here permanently and lawfully, your kid becomes an American citizen. If you're not here permanently, if you're not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and don't plan to be, why would we make those people's children American citizens permanently?
Jason Chaffetz, so much to unpack here. And I saw you.
I feel like they both have good points. We all can say that America was predicated on the backs of immigrants and that a lot of the successes contributed to the fact it is a mixing pot. But at the same time, what he is saying is, okay, yes, fair enough. But just because you're visiting here or you are here and you do have a child, now we're extending citizenship to your child. And in some cases where the parent is not a citizen, they are able to become a citizen if they have an underage child. So it's like, I feel like the whole situation could use a little bit more scrutinizing and just, figuring out. But I'm just philosophizing.
Reacting off camera to a lot of what we just saw. Tell us your thoughts.
Ooh, I love it. This is America first. This is exactly what America voted for.
USA.
I had a chance to visit with the president after he was elected, but before he was sworn in. And I just thanked him. And I said, Mr. President, thank you for the clarity. That's what the world needs. The world needs clarity. And Tom Homan and Vice President Vance and Donald Trump are leading that clarity. If you're here illegally, you're going to have to provide that restitution and go home. And if we need to detain you, arrest you, and deport you, we're going to do that. And Colombia, you know what? They were used to Obama, Biden, and Harris. They could roll over the United States all day, every day, and nobody would say a peep to them. Those days are over. It's America first. We are the world's economic and military superpower. You're not going to push us around. We're going to use every tool that we have. You want to come to this country and be a legal migrant? More power to you. We'll help you get here. But you got...
Why his voice cracked like that? He came in so enthusiastic and excited. I'm going to say I did not expect this much fervor coming out of him for Trump. I mean, I guess look at the tie, but just from his look, I didn't expect him to come in like that.
Can't come here illegally. And if you're committing crimes and you're raping people, I'm tired of these people, these politicians making an excuse. Oh, what about these rapists? Because you know what what about flowers? What about the cost of coffee? I mean, these are things that they're really worried about instead of the safety and security of Americans. It's America first, and I love it. And we're literally, it was 1 week ago, like to the minute, that Donald Trump was sworn in. It's true.
So, Kaylee, talk to me about, through the lens of having worked for number 45, right, during the prior administration. Talk to me specifically about this relationship with Colombia. Jason portends, these countries are going to fall in line. They're used to maybe dealing with a different kind of president. Here they have a commander-in-chief that has prioritized American interests. What do you foresee happening from additional Central American countries?
Yeah, we're simpatico, because that's exactly where my mind is at, Emily. There is this Twitter feed. It's called Cynical Publius. And he laid out just methodically how things traditionally work. It's so good that the vice president just sent it out. He lays out the traditional approach in dealing with, let's say, Colombia when they won't take a migrant flight. You get a task force together. It's the Department of Defense, it's ICE, it's the Secretary of State, the State Department. That task force comes up with a position paper. That position paper is then rejected by the Secretary of State in the name of equity. Days later, the president is briefed on it. And by the way, the details are leaked to the Washington Post along the way. And then in the end, we get a worse deal with Colombia, and they take fewer migrants than what we intended. And this all happens in about a month's time. Wait. Then Trump comes on board. And then we get the art of the deal. And while he is playing golf on various holes, he is threatening Colombia with tariffs and not backing down. And by the end of his golf game, in just about an hour, the Colombian president backs down, agrees to accept all migrants. It's called the art of the deal. And what does he do in solving this in an hour's time rather than a month's time? He sends a message to the EU. I will give you tariffs. They're coming your way unless you take our agricultural products. To Mexico, to Canada, tariffs coming your way February 1st, unless, hey, you rectify your trade imbalance. Message to Putin, I've threatened tariffs against you because Putin, if you don't get a deal, you're next. And message to Denmark, give us Greenland or you're under the threat of tariffs too. Every country in the world is shaking in their boots because they know that man means business. It's the art of the deal, gone with the deep state and traditional Washington.
So talk to me, Lisa, about...
I would say I understand what she's saying with the timeline that is usually associated with making changes and getting corresponding parties together when it comes to country officials. And so essentially she's saying in the past, just seeing something like this happen would have taken a month for the proposal to be made, for different parties in our own government to look over it, for the other party, the other country's government to look at it, deny it, and then come back to us. And along the way, all of these things happening get leaked out for stories, for press. And by the time change does happen, whatever was originally being discussed is not what even happens. And what actually happens is worse than what could have been imagined, as opposed to having a reaction happen within 24 hours and having a change of heart and mind happen without having to push paperwork back and forth.
Out what's happening internally with this, right? So we have the benefit of a congressman on the couch. There's a lot of politicians who are extending an olive branch and seeing the forest for the trees, and that there is sort of a global whipping coming to fruition, meaning that as used on the floor, those that are coming on board. And the reality is that when you prioritize American interests, how can a politician not be on board?
Well, I mean, this is also the first Republican to get the popular vote in 20 years. This is someone who has the American people behind him. This is someone where, even according to the New York Times, 55% of Americans want to deport all illegal aliens. So he's got a lot of juice right now entering this next term of his.
That's crazy. The 55% of all Americans, is it all Americans or all Americans who took the poll?
Presidency. I love that he shared a photo on True Social, an AI photo of F around and find out. That's the new mantra of the next 4 years. Gone are the days, as we pointed out, of saying don't and then everyone does. When he says don't, you don't, right? And he gets knocked a lot for his use of tariffs, but you look how smartly, how intelligent he was to use this and how effective it is of making these threats. Part of the challenge in these deportations is getting some of these countries to accept criminals, rapists, pedophiles. They're not going to want to accept these people. So you have to have tariffs and some of these leverage points to get them to accept it, because we know there's been reports of countries like Venezuela emptying their prisons and sending violent offenders here to the United States. So we've got to have leverage points to get these people to take back, these bad people. So good for President Trump being smart and utilizing tariffs and getting people, F around, you find out, right?
And I have to say, Harris, that a lot of the pushback seems to be sort of singular in concept that frankly reduces our allies and neighbors to sort of one thing. Coffee from Colombia. We actually make our own coffee here too, in Kona, in Hawaii, right? There's multiple things coming out of our neighbors' countries that aren't sort of reducible to one thing. But I think that's part of what the media has been articulating this entire time, arguing that the GOP reduces humans to an identity, but really it's them.
Such a big deal that certain tariffs are going to be imposed and countries aren't going to, necessarily want to get on board. But a lot of the same products we get from other countries, we make here as well. It's just we buy a lot of stuff from other places.
But an identity, but really it's them shoving these countries into boxes. President Trump sees them as partners.
Yeah, what's interesting is Trump's trying to bring about a world where he'll drop the rate for companies that actually come here and make some of that stuff to 15% tax rate. So we might not have to miss coffee or whatever they think they're going to miss that we can clearly make our own, but maybe not as much of, because maybe some of those countries will come here and they'll package their stuff or distribute it from here. He's trying to make that happen. Look, I want to know who Colombia's Gustavo Petro called. Who did he call? Because somebody had to say, yeah, I'm sure he called a friend. Which friend did he call among those who are also one of the 160 countries that have people here illegally who are committing violent crimes? Like, is there a group of them? Because I'm guessing that there might be. And if that's the case, everybody get your planes ready, your presidential planes ready. Because
she's funny. She was like, look, dude wasn't going for it. So I'm curious which one of the other people who was also on the same list as him, he hopped on the phone with real quick, like, hey, they threatening us. What should we do? Like, and whoever he spoke to gave homie a change of heart. You heard what baby girl said. She said an hour after Trump made the tweet, his decision was changed.
We have some folk you need to take back. And, here's the other thing. On the list, because we scrolled it last hour, it was so long, we needed to scroll it several times. He wants to begin reviewing the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a discussion about wider protection of borders and that whole thing. I mean, this goes beyond the deportations now. What are they going to do? And look, Trudeau in Canada can probably answer some questions about what he's capable of doing and what he means when he says, if you don't do what I say, you can be the 51st state, Canada. I mean, I think now we are in that group, as you say. If you know what the F stands for. But we're also in a place where everybody around the world has to be talking to each other now. I happen to think that's a really good thing. I mean, they're talking about us in a way of strength now, not what can you get from the Biden administration if we promise we might help them a little.
That's right. And look, speaking from experience, resisting parking tickets, the whole point is it just gets more expensive.
Okay, that's hilarious.
That's wrong, Emily.
That's hilarious.
No, you got to pay it, which Colombia learned. Hey, everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-host.
That's funny. So pretty much she was saying with all other administrations, countries have been able to steamroll over us and to get partnership and benefits with the appeasal of a potential partnership or them giving something or them giving up minimal amounts of something. And now it's like, no, let's all play on equal playing field. And we do import a lot of stuff. Like, let's just be honest. We import a lot of stuff. And it would be beneficial for some of the countries that are providing our people with products. We're also providing jobs to our people. You feel me? As opposed to the rich getting richer over there. Even though a lot of this is just going to trickle down to the rich over here getting richer as well. Like, let's not play dumb. But it would put an increase in the tax budget from these big companies and corporations making things here. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Again, it's your boy Chuck Diesel. If you want to stay in tune, go ahead, like, share, subscribe. I got a playlist. There's nothing but top news stories. You catch me on all platforms. Let's get it.